My daughter-in-law banished me to the servants' table for arriving late to her lavish birthday gala, all because I stopped to help a stranded woman fix her car. She humiliated me, seating me far from my grandchildren, prioritizing her elite guests. Then the woman from the highway walked in, revealed as a billionaire, and turned the night upside down with a shocking announcement. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. The photo trembled in my weathered hands. Simon and Grace, frozen in last summer's sunlight, their gap-toothed smiles bright against the faded paper. 10 and 8 years old now. When had I last held them? My thumb traced Grace's pigtails. 3 months since Christmas. 3 months since Mabel's voice on the phone. Sorry, Reuben, the kids have that stomach bug going around. Then Seth's Instagram showed them at Aspen, building snowmen in designer jackets. The leather armchair creaked as I shifted, reaching for the cordless phone on the side table. My coffee had gone cold hours ago, lipstick still marking the rim of Martha's favorite mug. I kept using it, kept pretending she might walk through that door, ask why I hadn't called the kids yet. 7:30 on a Monday evening. Seth would be home from his IT job, helping with homework, maybe watching some cartoon with them. I pictured Grace's laugh, Simon's serious face when he concentrated on math problems. My finger hovered over the speed dial. Number 2, right after the house phone, though Martha's number stayed programmed at number 1. Couldn't bring myself to delete it. The phone rang twice. Hello? Seth's voice carried the background chaos of family life. Television chatter, kids arguing about something trivial. Seth, hi son. I cleared my throat, straightened in the chair like he could see me. Listen, what could I get Mabel for her birthday? Silence stretched between us. In the background, Grace's voice rose. Mom, Simon won't let me. Dad, we're not planning anything grand. Seth sounded tired, distracted. Just a small dinner with the closest people. Small dinner, closest people. The words settled in my chest like stones. Right, of course, but maybe something nice? Flowers? I could stop by that boutique on Clark Street. I'll talk to Mabel about it. Maybe we'll invite you too. Maybe. The word hung there, casual as discussing weather. Maybe they'd include their own family. Could I see the grandchildren? The question escaped before I could stop it. It's been so long since we... Grace, stop bothering your brother. Seth's voice moved away from the phone, then returned. Sorry, Dad, dinner's getting cold. Mabel's calling everyone to the table. Of course, I just thought, I really need to go. Thanks for calling about the gift idea. The line went dead. I held the phone against my ear until the dial tone started, then placed it carefully on the side table. Through the thin walls, Mrs. Patterson's television blared some game show. Winners celebrating, audience cheering. I pulled out my small notebook, the one I'd used for work orders, back when my hands fixed engines instead of trembling over family photos. Drew a careful line under yesterday's date, wrote Mabel, birthday Thursday, in block letters. Below that, small dinner, closest people. The calendar on the coffee table showed April 21st, circled in red ink. Thursday the 24th was still blank, waiting. 3 days to figure out how to be worth including. The mantelpiece held more photos. Grace losing her first tooth. Simon's Little League trophy. Both kids helping Martha in her garden. All taken here, in this house, back when Sunday dinners meant something. I closed the photo album, but kept Simon and Grace's picture tucked between the pages of my notebook. Tomorrow I'd think about gifts, about small gestures that might open doors. Tonight, I'd count the hours until Thursday and wonder if this time would be different. My finger traced Thursday's empty square on the calendar, then picked up a pen to draw a small circle around the date. 20 hours later, dirt clung to my fingernails as I crouched between tomato plants in the backyard. Tuesday afternoon sun warmed my shoulders through the old flannel shirt. The seedlings needed daily attention, something Martha had taught me before the cancer took her voice. Then everything else. Looking good, Reuben, Mrs. Patterson called from her kitchen window. I waved, straightened my creaking back, and checked the mailbox for the third time today. Still hoping for birthday gift ideas, maybe a catalog with something appropriate for a 40-year-old businesswoman I barely knew. Empty again. Just bills and grocery store flyers. The cordless phone rang from inside the house. I jogged toward the back door, wiping soil from my palms on the dish towel hanging by the sink. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize. "Hello, this is Reuben." "Reuben, this is Mabel." Her voice carried that crisp professional tone she used at her environmental consulting firm. No warmth, no small talk. "I'm calling about my birthday on Thursday." I fumbled for my notebook, pen ready. "Yes, Seth mentioned you might. I'm inviting you to join us. It'll be at Lakeview Manor Restaurant outside the city. Elite place." She paused, and I heard papers shuffling. "Thursday evening, 7 o'clock sharp. Lakeview Manor." I wrote it down carefully, my handwriting suddenly shaky. That's wonderful, Mabel. Thank you for including me. Dress appropriately. It's not some casual diner." The line went quiet except for her typing. Always multitasking, always busy with more important things than family calls. I stared at what I'd written. Lakeview Manor, Elite Place, 7 p.m. "Mabel, I have to ask." I hesitated, then pressed on. "Seth said it would be a simple dinner. This sounds quite fancy." Plans changed. Her tone suggested the conversation was ending. "It'll be a grand celebration now. Bring a substantial gift." "Of course. Will Simon and Grace be there?" "They'll be there. Don't disappoint them by showing up underdressed." The dial tone buzzed in my ear. I held the phone, processing what had just happened. Substantial gift. Grand celebration. Elite restaurant. My old computer took 5 minutes to boot up, another 3 to connect to the internet. The Lakeview Manor website loaded slowly, revealing marble columns and crystal chandeliers. "Chicago's premier dining experience," the header proclaimed, "where elegance meets excellence." The menu made my eyes water. Appetizers started at $38. The private dining rooms could seat 50 guests, all overlooking Lake Michigan through floor-to-ceiling windows. I sat back in the creaky desk chair Martha had bought at a garage sale 15 years ago, stared at my notebook where 2 different conversations lived on the same page. Small dinner, closest people, in yesterday's entry. Grand celebration, elite place in today's. Small dinner or grand celebration. Closest people or 50 guests. Seth's tired voice or Mabel's commanding tone. Through the kitchen window, my neighbor's sprinkler system clicked on, sending arcs of water across their manicured lawn. I thought about my savings account, about the decent shirt hanging in my closet, about whether either would be enough for Lakeview Manor. The flower shop on Ashland Avenue could probably suggest something appropriate. Roses, maybe, or one of those elaborate arrangements businesswomen liked for their offices. I circled Thursday's date again, this time writing 7 p.m. Lakeview Manor in the square. Then I called the restaurant to ask for directions, listening to the hostess's sophisticated voice explain valet parking and jacket requirements. After hanging up, I held the notebook with both hands, staring at the address I'd written in careful block letters. The notebook lay open on my lap as evening shadows crept across the living room. Lakeview Manor's address stared back at me, elegant and expensive. I reached for the photo album on the coffee table, letting it fall open to Grace's school Christmas program from 2 years ago. Her angel costume had been crooked, wings sliding off one shoulder, but her smile could have lit the entire auditorium. I remembered buying a new shirt for that performance, practicing compliments about her singing voice. Then Mabel's call came that December afternoon. "Sorry, Reuben. Venue change. The family section is completely full now. You understand?" I'd driven there anyway, parked across the street from Lincoln Elementary, watched through those tall windows as my granddaughter sang Silent Night to a room full of parents and grandparents. Everyone but me. Page after page held similar memories. Simon's baseball game last spring. "Weather looks bad, Reuben. Rain would just ruin it for everyone." Then Seth's Facebook photos showed sunny skies. Simon sliding into home plate while grandparents cheered from the bleachers. The kitchen timer chimed. My soup was ready. I shuffled to the stove, stirring chicken noodle from a can, while the radio played songs from the 70s. Martha used to hum along to these melodies while she cooked real dinners, roasts, and casseroles that filled the house with warmth. Back in my chair, I balanced the bowl on my knee and turned another album page. Last Christmas morning, the one that hurt most. I'd wrapped presents weeks early. A remote control helicopter for Simon, art supplies for Grace, professional wrapping paper, careful bows, name tags in my best handwriting. The kids woke up with fevers, Reuben. You know how the flu spreads. Maybe next week when they're feeling better. Those presents still sat in my bedroom closet. The helicopter's batteries had probably corroded by now. Grace's watercolors had likely dried out. 3 days later, Seth posted pictures from Vale, both kids healthy and laughing, building snowmen and designer ski clothes I couldn't afford in 5 years of Social Security checks. We lived in the same city, 23 minutes by car. I'd timed it once, driving past their subdivision just to see the house where my grandchildren grew up. But I saw them twice a year at most, always on Mabel's terms, always when convenient for her schedule. The pattern was there, clear as daylight, if I stopped making excuses. Every invitation withdrawn, every plan suddenly changed, every maybe next time that never came. Maybe she just didn't want an old man ruining their perfect life. I closed the album, but kept Grace's school photo tucked in my notebook. Tomorrow I'd need to shop for something appropriate, something substantial enough for Lakeview Manor's elegant atmosphere. The mall would have jewelry stores, maybe perfume counters with expensive bottles in fancy boxes. The radio played The Way You Look Tonight, and I could almost hear Martha's voice joining the melody from the kitchen. She'd known how to handle difficult people, how to find common ground where I only saw walls. This time will be different, I said aloud to her empty chair. She invited me personally. That has to mean something. The album slipped back onto the coffee table with a soft thud. Outside, streetlights were coming on, and Mrs. Patterson's television glowed through her living room curtains. Normal families having normal evenings, grandparents included without question or condition. I carried my empty soup bowl to the kitchen, rinsed it carefully, and placed it in the rack to dry. Then I headed upstairs to my bedroom, where my one good shirt hung in the closet next to work clothes I no longer needed. Tomorrow I'd buy flowers and hope. Thursday I'd dress appropriately and try not to disappoint the grandchildren who barely remembered my name. Thursday morning arrived with pale sunlight streaming through my bedroom curtains. I'd been awake since 5:30, checking the weather forecast on my old radio. Clear skies, mild temperature, perfect for the drive to Lakeview Manor. After a simple breakfast of toast and coffee, I reviewed my handwritten notes from yesterday's planning session. Gift ideas, scarf, jewelry, perfume. Martha always said scarves made women feel elegant, and I vaguely remembered Mabel wearing blue at last year's Easter dinner. Woodfield Mall opened at 10, but I arrived early, circling the massive parking lot twice before finding a spot near the entrance. Families streamed past me, mothers pushing strollers, teenagers laughing in groups, elderly couples walking slowly, arm in arm, normal people doing normal things on a Thursday afternoon. Inside, the noise overwhelmed me immediately. Conversations echoing off high ceilings, children crying, cash registers beeping endlessly, department stores stretched in every direction, their bright displays promising happiness through purchase. I wandered through Macy's first, examining handbags that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. The saleswoman watched me suspiciously as I touched price tags, her perfectly painted nails tapping against the glass counter. "Can I help you find something?" Her smile felt rehearsed. "Looking for a birthday gift. For my daughter-in-law." "What's your price range?" I hesitated, calculating pension checks against restaurant expenses. Something nice, but not too expensive. She directed me toward cheaper accessories, her enthusiasm visibly dimming. I spent 30 minutes examining wallets and costume jewelry, but nothing felt right for someone who shopped at places like Lakeview Manor. The boutique on the second floor looked more promising. Soft lighting, classical music, silk scarves, arranged like artwork on wooden displays. A younger woman approached with genuine warmth in her eyes. This silk scarf is very elegant, sir. She held up a piece in soft blue, the fabric flowing like water between her fingers. It would suit any lady beautifully. The price tag made me wince, but I thought about Grace's angel costume, about Simon's baseball trophy, about missed Christmas mornings and empty Easter dinners. I hope she'll like it. It's for my daughter-in-law's birthday. Would you like special gift wrapping? Yes, please. Make it look nice. I watched her work, folding tissue paper with practiced precision, tying ribbon in perfect bows. The finished package looked expensive, professional, nothing like my amateur attempts at wrapping Christmas gifts that never got opened. Back home, I laid out my navy suit on the bed, checking for stains or loose threads. The pants were slightly short, the jacket a bit loose around the shoulders, but it was clean and pressed. My dress shoes gleamed after 15 minutes of careful polishing. In the bathroom mirror, I practiced what I'd say to the grandchildren. Hi, Simon. How's school going? Grace, you've gotten so tall. The words felt rusty in my mouth, unused to speaking with anyone under 30. The gift sat on my kitchen table, wrapped in silver paper with a blue bow. Elegant enough for Lakeview Manor, expensive enough to show I cared, appropriate enough to avoid embarrassment. 5:45 on the wall clock. Time to leave soon. I grabbed my car keys and wallet, checked the restaurant address one final time, and headed toward the garage. Tonight I'd see my grandchildren again. Tonight everything would be different. The garage door rumbled open as I backed my old Buick into the fading daylight. Mabel's gift rode securely on the passenger seat, its silver wrapping paper catching streetlight reflections. 6 o'clock exactly. Perfect timing for a 7 o'clock reservation. I-90 stretched ahead like a ribbon through suburban neighborhoods, past strip malls and housing developments toward open countryside. The radio played Martha's favorite oldies station, and I found myself humming along to songs from our early marriage. Moon River had been our wedding dance. At a red light, I checked the printed directions one more time. Lakeview Manor, 23 miles outside the city, overlooking Lake Michigan's southern shore. Elite dining, elegant atmosphere, substantial gift required. The suburbs gave way to farmland as traffic thinned. Rolling fields stretched toward the horizon, broken by occasional farmhouses with lights glowing in kitchen windows. Families gathering for dinner. Grandparents welcome at every table. 6:15 by the dashboard clock when I spotted the disabled car ahead. A woman stood beside the open hood, her posture rigid with frustration. Dark hair, simple clothing, dignity, despite obvious distress. My first instinct was to drive past. I was running late, wearing my best suit, carrying an expensive gift. But 40 years of fixing engines had trained my eyes to recognize automotive despair, and my conscience wouldn't let me abandon someone in need. I pulled behind her car, hazard lights blinking, and walked toward her with the careful pace of someone offering help to a stranger. Ma'am, do you need assistance? She turned with relief flooding her features. Oh, thank goodness. I don't know what's wrong. It just stopped running. Her voice carried education and authority, despite the grease stain on her simple blouse. Quality car, too. Late model sedan, well maintained except for whatever had stranded her here. Let's take a look under the hood. The engine compartment told its story immediately. Battery terminals corroded, voltage meter reading 0, alternator belt intact but useless without power. Classic failure pattern I'd seen thousands of times in my workshop days. Looks like your battery's dead. Probably been weakening for weeks. Finally gave up today. Can you fix it? I have jumper cables in my trunk. This shouldn't take long. She watched me work with curious eyes, asking intelligent questions about the repair process. Not the helpless female stereotype some men expected, but someone genuinely interested in understanding her car's mechanics. You're very kind to stop. Most people just drive by. I connected the cables with practiced efficiency, red to positive, black to negative, years of muscle memory guiding my hands. My wife used to say helping strangers was just good sense. Never know when you might need help yourself. The engine turned over smoothly on the second try. I let it idle while checking voltage levels, ensuring the alternator would recharge the battery properly. Professional pride demanded thorough work, even for roadside repairs. There you go. Should work fine now. How much do I owe you? The question surprised me. Payment never occurred to me. This was just what decent people did for each other. Nothing at all, ma'am. Just be careful on these highways. She insisted, but I was already packing up the cables. 6:30 now. Definitely running late for Lakeview Manor. The grandchildren would be wondering where Grandpa was. Where are you headed this evening? She asked, genuine curiosity in her voice. To my daughter-in-law's birthday party. Something flickered across her expression. Amusement? Recognition? I couldn't tell which. Well, I hope you have a wonderful time. Maybe we'll see each other again. Maybe so. Drive safely now. Back in my Buick, I watched her pull away in the rearview mirror, her taillights disappearing around a curve. Nice woman, well-spoken, gracious despite her trouble. The kind of person Martha would have liked. 7:05 when I reached the restaurant parking lot. Late, but not disastrously so. Her engine purred like new machinery as I wound the jumper cables into neat coils. 40 years of automotive repair had taught me to appreciate the sound of smooth combustion, and this car would run perfectly, now that proper voltage flowed through its electrical system. Test your lights, radio, air conditioning, I suggested, wiping grease from my hands with the shop rag I always kept in my trunk. Make sure everything's working properly. She followed my instructions methodically, checking each system with the thoroughness of someone who understood the importance of details. Interior lights, headlights, turn signals, windshield wipers, everything functioned correctly. Perfect! You've saved my evening. She stepped out of the car with obvious relief. Now, what do I owe you for the repair? The question still seemed strange. Ma'am, I told you, nothing at all. This is just what neighbors do for each other. But you're not my neighbor. You're a stranger who stopped to help when dozens of other cars drove past. Her voice carried gentle insistence. Surely I can pay you something. I shook my head firmly while closing her hood. My wife Martha always said kindness wasn't a business transaction. You'd do the same for someone else, I'm sure. A knowing smile played across her lips. Where did you say you were going tonight? My daughter-in-law's birthday celebration, Lakeview Manor Restaurant. I glanced at my watch. 6:45 now. Actually, I should be heading there soon. The smile widened, though I couldn't understand why. Lakeview Manor? That's quite an elegant establishment. Yes, it's supposed to be very fancy. Elite dining, my daughter-in-law called it. I straightened my tie self-consciously. I hope my suit's appropriate for their standards. I'm sure you'll fit in perfectly. She walked back toward her car, but paused with her hand on the door handle. You know, it's interesting how life brings people together at exactly the right moment. How do you mean? Oh, just that sometimes strangers meet for reasons that become clear later. Her eyes held an amused sparkle. Maybe we'll see each other again sooner than you think. I chuckled politely. Maybe so, but I doubt it. Chicago's a big city. Smaller than you might imagine. She slid into her driver's seat, rolling down the window. Thank you again for your kindness. Have a wonderful evening with your family. Drive carefully now, and get that battery checked at a service station soon. She waved as I walked back to my Buick, and I watched her taillights disappear around the bend before climbing behind my steering wheel. Nice encounter, the kind that restored faith in human decency. Martha would have approved. 6:55 by the dashboard clock. Definitely late now, but only by a few minutes. I pressed the accelerator harder, eager to reach Lakeview Manor before my absence became noticeable. The woman's parting words echoed in my mind as I drove through the darkness. Maybe we'll see each other again sooner than you think. Odd thing to say to a complete stranger, but some people were naturally optimistic about coincidences. My thoughts returned to the evening ahead, Simon and Grace waiting at an elegant restaurant, probably dressed in their Sunday best. Seth making awkward conversation while Mabel managed every detail of her perfect celebration. Me arriving with an appropriate gift and genuine enthusiasm, determined to be the grandfather they deserved. The GPS announced my destination in half a mile. Lakeview Manor's lights appeared through the trees, warm and welcoming against the dark lake beyond. Valet parking, just as the hostess had mentioned over the phone. I pulled up to the entrance, gifts secure in my hand, ready to give my granddaughter and grandson the birthday celebration their grandmother would have wanted them to remember. Lakeview Manor's entrance doors gleamed like polished mirrors under crystal chandeliers. I checked my appearance one final time in the car's side mirror, smoothed my navy suit jacket, and gripped Mabel's gift with confidence born from Martha's old advice. Walk in like you belong there. Valet attendants in crisp uniforms directed expensive cars, Mercedes, BMW, Lexus models that cost more than my annual pension. My weathered Buick looked humble among the luxury vehicles, but the young man who took my keys offered the same professional courtesy he'd shown the Porsche ahead of me. Inside, live piano music drifted through air scented with expensive flowers, white tablecloths, silver cutlery, crystal wine glasses, catching light from overhead fixtures. Everything elegant, refined, perfect. Exactly the elite dining Mabel had promised. Then I saw the crowd. 50, maybe 60 people mingled throughout the spacious dining hall. Business suits, cocktail dresses, champagne glasses, animated conversations about quarterly projections and market trends. Professional networking in full swing, not a family birthday celebration. This wasn't Seth's small dinner with closest people. Mabel stood near the bar, stunning in a black designer dress, gesturing expressively while three men in expensive suits hung on her every word. Environmental consulting success story, holding court among potential clients and business partners. I approached slowly, gift box feeling suddenly inadequate in my hands. Sorry I'm late, I said, interrupting her conversation. Had to help someone on the highway with car trouble. Her expression froze. The businessman glanced at me with polite confusion, taking in my modest suit, my working class appearance, my obviously lower social status. Reuben, her voice carried ice crystals. What a surprise. I offered the wrapped gift with genuine warmth. Happy birthday, Mabel. I hope you like it. She accepted the package like it might contaminate her manicured fingers, setting it quickly on a nearby side table without acknowledgement. The businessmen exchanged glances, reading social cues I was only beginning to understand. Thank you, she said dismissively, already turning back to her conversation partners. Gentlemen, as I was saying about sustainable energy initiatives, Mabel, where should I sit? I'd love to see Simon and Grace. Another frozen moment. Calculations behind her eyes, measuring damage to her professional image against family obligation. Oh, dear Reuben, what a shame. All the seats at the main table are completely reserved. She gestured toward a small corner table where restaurant staff sat during their break. You'll have to sit over there with the service team. I followed her pointing finger. A card table in the corner, mismatched chairs, no tablecloth, no place settings, waiters and busboys eating simple meals between serving duties. There? With the waiters? I'm terribly sorry, but the reservation was finalized weeks ago. We simply didn't plan for... She trailed off, letting implications hang in the perfumed air. The businessmen studied their drinks, embarrassed by the awkward family dynamics playing out before them. Other guests began noticing our exchange, conversations dimming as attention focused on the uncomfortable scene. I looked across the room toward the main table, where Simon and Grace sat in their best clothes, too far away to approach, too young to understand why Grandpa stood alone by the entrance with nowhere to sit. Understanding hit like cold water. This had been planned, calculated. The invitation, the elite venue, the strategic seating arrangement, all designed to put me in my place. I nodded slowly, dignity intact despite the public humiliation. Seth stood at the bar's far end, expensive whiskey glass in his hand, designer suit making him look successful and confident. Everything I'd wanted for my son when he was growing up. Good job, nice clothes, financial security. He saw me approaching and his shoulders tensed, guilt written across his features like headline news. Seth, I kept my voice low, avoiding another public scene. Son, maybe there's room at your table? just for tonight? He couldn't meet my eyes, staring instead at ice cubes floating in amber liquid. Behind him, crystal bottles lined mirrored shelves, reflecting our awkward confrontation in infinite, diminishing images. Dad, listen. He finally looked up, conflict warring in his expression. The thing is, we booked all the reservations before deciding to invite you. Mabel had the seating chart finalized weeks ago. I'm sitting with the kitchen staff, Seth, at a card table in the corner. It's not that bad. Your children are 50 feet away, and I can't even approach them. My voice stayed level, but each word carried weight. This is your wife's birthday party, and she's treating their grandfather like hired help. Seth's face flushed red, but not with anger. Embarrassment. Shame. The uncomfortable awareness of participating in something fundamentally wrong. Maybe I could ask Mabel to rearrange. Would you? Would you actually ask your wife to treat your father with basic dignity? Silence stretched between us. Piano music continued its elegant melody. Glasses clinked at nearby tables. Conversations flowed around us like water around stones. She's worked really hard on this party, Dad. All her business contacts are here. She's stressed about making good impressions. I understand. 2 words that carried 42 years of disappointment. 2 words that said everything about our relationship, his priorities, his choice between family and social climbing. Seth's relief was visible. He'd expected an argument, demands, emotional manipulation. Instead, I gave him exactly what he wanted, permission to abandon his father without consequences. It's just for tonight, he said weakly. Maybe next time we can... Next time. I nodded, turned away from the bar. Sure, son, next time. Behind me, Seth called out something about understanding, about difficult situations, about hoping I'd enjoy the dinner anyway. Words meant to ease his conscience, not address the fundamental problem. I walked slowly toward the corner table, past elegant guests discussing stock portfolios and vacation homes, past my daughter-in-law holding court among potential business partners, past the main table where Simon and Grace sat in their Sunday best, watching their grandfather's humiliation with confused, sad eyes. The staff table felt like exile. Waiters nodded sympathetically as I sat down, understanding working-class solidarity in ways my own family had forgotten. They offered me coffee, asked if I needed anything, treated me with more courtesy than the people who shared my blood. From this corner, I could observe the entire celebration, count the guests, 57 by my calculation, watch Mabel network with environmental industry leaders, see Seth hover near the bar, avoiding eye contact across the room. Most painfully, I could see my grandchildren stealing glances in my direction, prevented by social protocol from approaching their grandfather's table in the corner where restaurant employees took their breaks. The staff table felt like an observation post overlooking enemy territory. From this corner, I could survey Mabel's entire social battlefield. 57 guests, by my count, all dressed in designer clothing, all part of her environmental consulting network. Sorry you ended up here, sir. A young waiter sat down across from me, sandwich and coffee cup in hand. Doesn't seem right, family treating family like this? Not your fault, son. He shook his head, glancing toward the main celebration. Been working these fancy parties for 3 years. Never seen anything like this before. Neither had I, but patterns were becoming clear. Systematic exclusion disguised as social necessity. Seth's small family gathering transformed into Mabel's professional networking event with military precision. I started counting backwards through memories. Christmas morning cancellations, school play venue changes, baseball game weather concerns, Easter dinner flu symptoms. Every excuse designed to separate me from Simon and Grace while maintaining plausible deniability. The mathematics were simple. 57 business guests rated invitations, but their grandfather earned a corner table with the service staff. My phone buzzed with a text message. Probably Seth, sending electronic apologies to ease his conscience. But the number was unfamiliar. Is everything all right at the restaurant? I hope your evening improved after our highway encounter. E, the woman from the roadside. Somehow she'd gotten my number, probably when I'd given it to the insurance company during the repair process. Kind gesture from a stranger who showed more concern for my well-being than my own family. I typed back carefully. Interesting evening. Thank you for asking. Her reply came immediately. Sometimes the most interesting evenings lead to unexpected opportunities. Odd response, but then everything about tonight defied normal family logic. Across the room, Grace caught my eye and waved shyly. Mabel's hand descended immediately on her shoulder, redirecting attention back to the adult conversation at the main table. Simon followed his sister's gaze, saw me sitting with restaurant workers, his young face scrunching with confusion. They wanted to approach. They wanted to sit with Grandpa, hear stories, show me their school projects, maybe get quarters for the restaurant's vintage arcade games I'd spotted near the entrance. But social hierarchy kept them imprisoned at the main table while I sat in exile, close enough to see them, far enough away to understand my place in this family's structure. 57 guests, I said quietly to myself. Small family gathering. The waiter looked up from his sandwich. What's that, sir? Just thinking out loud about truth and lies and the difference between them. My phone buzzed again. Another message from the mysterious E. The evening isn't over yet. Sometimes the best surprises come last. I studied the text, wondering how a complete stranger could sound so confident about events in my life. But then nothing about tonight followed predictable patterns. From across the room, restaurant doors opened with a flourish. A new arrival stepped inside, elegant woman with an entourage that commanded immediate attention from the Maitre d' and valet staff. I looked up from my phone, squinting through the dim restaurant lighting to identify this latest guest at Mabel's networking extravaganza. Double doors swept open like theater curtains revealing the evening's final act. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Silverware paused halfway to mouths. Champagne glasses froze in elegant hands as the entire restaurant turned toward the entrance. She walked in like she owned the building. Designer dress in deep emerald green, diamond earrings catching chandelier light, confident stride that spoke of boardrooms and billion-dollar decisions. 2 professional security guards flanked her, scanning the room with practiced eyes while maintaining respectful distance from their employer. My coffee cup rattled against its saucer as recognition hit. The woman from the highway. The stranded motorist whose battery I'd jump-started less than 2 hours ago. But this wasn't the same person, or rather, this was her true self revealed. Gone were the simple clothes and helpless demeanor. In their place stood someone who commanded respect without demanding it, whose presence shifted the room's entire energy toward her gravitational pull. "Who is that?" whispered guests at nearby tables. "Must be someone important," came the hushed replies. Across the room, Mabel's face went pale, then flushed red, then settled into the forced smile she wore during difficult business negotiations. She abandoned her conversation partners immediately, rushing toward the entrance with obvious desperation. "Ms. Howard! What an unexpected pleasure!" Mabel's voice carried across the dining hall, pitched higher than usual with nervous energy. Howard. The name meant nothing to me, but it clearly meant everything to everyone else in the room. The elegant woman, Ms. Howard, smiled politely but distantly at Mabel's approach. Professional courtesy without warmth, the kind of interaction that happened between business associates rather than friends. "Good evening, Mabel. I was in the neighborhood and thought I'd stop by." Her eyes swept the room systematically, taking in the elaborate decorations, the expensive wine, the networking conversations, continuing in whispered tones. Then her gaze found me sitting at the staff table in the corner, and her smile became genuine for the first time since entering. "I told you we might see each other again," she said, directing her words toward my corner, despite Mabel's attempts to monopolize her attention. Guests followed her line of sight, suddenly noticing the old man sitting with restaurant workers, trying to understand why this obviously important woman was acknowledging someone at the service table. Mabel's confusion was visible from across the room. Her eyes darted between Ms. Howard and me, trying to calculate connections that didn't compute in her social mathematics. "I believe we have business to discuss," Ms. Howard said to Mabel, but her feet were already moving in my direction. The crowd parted like water, creating a clear path from entrance to corner table. Professional deference guided their movements. Whoever this woman was, she commanded respect from people who weren't easily impressed. Mabel trailed behind. Her networking event transformed into something she couldn't control or predict. The careful seating arrangements, the strategic guest list, the calculated social dynamics, all disrupted by an arrival that changed every equation in the room. Ms. Howard approached my table with purposeful steps, her security detail maintaining professional distance while the entire restaurant watched this unprecedented breach of social hierarchy. "Mind if I sit?" Ms. Howard gestured toward the empty chair beside me, completely ignoring the distinction between staff table and main celebration that had defined my entire evening. The young waiter scrambled to his feet, offering his chair with obvious awe. "Please, ma'am, take mine." "That's very kind. Thank you." She settled gracefully beside me, designer dress looking perfectly natural next to the simple metal chair. Much more comfortable than those formal tables anyway. Mabel arrived breathless, her networking smile stretched tight across her face. "Ms. Howard, surely you'd prefer to sit at the main table. I can arrange— Actually, I'm quite curious about the seating arrangements here." Ms. Howard's voice carried gentle authority that brooked no argument. "Why is Mr. Gray sitting with the restaurant staff?" The question hung in the air like an accusation wrapped in silk. Guests at nearby tables leaned closer, sensing drama more interesting than quarterly profit discussions. "Well, you see—" Mabel's laugh sounded forced, artificial. "It's a family matter. Space limitations, last-minute reservations." "Family matter?" Ms. Howard turned toward me with genuine interest. "You're related to tonight's hostess?" "She's my daughter-in-law," I said quietly. "It's her 40th birthday celebration." "And you're celebrating it at the staff table?" The simple question cut through all of Mabel's careful explanations like a sword through silk. No amount of social maneuvering could disguise the fundamental wrongness of the situation when stated so directly. "The main table was booked weeks ago," Mabel said desperately. "Family seating was finalized before we decided to invite additional guests." Ms. Howard's eyebrows rose slightly. "Additional guests?" "Well, yes. Extended family members weren't originally included in the intimate celebration plans." "I see." Two words that somehow conveyed volumes about character assessment and moral judgment. Ms. Howard's expression cooled several degrees as she processed Mabel's explanation. Around us, the restaurant buzzed with whispered conversations as guests tried to understand why this obviously powerful woman was conducting a public inquiry into family seating arrangements. "Tell me about your grandchildren," Ms. Howard said, turning back to me. "I assume they're here tonight?" I nodded toward the main table where Simon and Grace sat in their Sunday best, stealing glances in our direction, but prevented from approaching by invisible social barriers. "They look lovely. When did you last spend time with them?" The question was casual, conversational, but I could see the calculation behind her eyes. This was an investigation disguised as small talk. "Christmas, briefly. Before that, Easter. There always seems to be scheduling conflicts or health concerns when family gatherings are planned." "Unfortunate pattern," she observed, watching Mabel's face grow increasingly pale. Seth approached from the bar, drink in hand, clearly sent by his wife to manage whatever crisis was developing. "Dad, everything okay here?" "Your father was just explaining family dynamics," Ms. Howard said before I could respond. "Interesting perspective on hospitality and respect for elders." Seth's face flushed red, understanding that his family's treatment of me was being evaluated by someone whose opinion clearly mattered to his wife's business aspirations. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately," Mabel suggested, desperation creeping into her voice. Ms. Howard stood slowly, her movement commanding attention from the entire restaurant. "Actually, I think it's time for a proper introduction." She walked toward the center of the dining hall, and conversations died as every guest focused on her approaching announcement. Ms. Howard raised her champagne glass, and the entire restaurant fell silent. 57 guests, restaurant staff, family members, all attention focused on the elegant woman who had transformed a networking dinner into something far more significant. Good evening, everyone. Allow me to properly introduce myself. Her voice carried easily across the dining hall without strain or effort. My name is Esther Howard. I'm the founder and CEO of Howard Green Energy Corporation. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Business cards were forgotten. Networking conversations abandoned, as guests realized they were in the presence of genuine power. Howard Green Energy, the environmental company worth billions, the corporation that could make or break smaller consulting firms with a single contract decision. Mabel's face went white as snow. I'm also the principal director of the Howard Foundation, which manages charitable assets exceeding $2 billion annually. Esther's smile was pleasant, professional, and absolutely terrifying in its implications. We focus on supporting organizations and individuals who demonstrate exceptional character and human dignity. She paused, letting her words settle over the assembled crowd like morning frost. This evening I had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Reuben Gray on the highway outside Chicago. My car had broken down, and this gentleman stopped to help a complete stranger, refusing any payment for his assistance. Her gaze swept across the room, landing on me with warmth before turning back to the crowd. He told me he was attending his daughter-in-law's birthday celebration at this very restaurant. The silence was deafening. Imagine my surprise when I discovered that this same man, who showed such kindness to a stranger in distress, was seated at a corner table with restaurant staff, separated from his own grandchildren at what was supposed to be a family celebration. Mabel swayed slightly, gripping a nearby chair for support. In my business dealings, I've learned that character matters more than profit margins. How people treat others when they think no one important is watching reveals their true nature. Esther's voice remained conversational, but each word fell like a hammer blow. Unfortunately, what I've witnessed tonight regarding the treatment of Mr. Gray demonstrates a fundamental lack of the values my foundation supports. Guests exchanged glances, understanding that careers were being made or destroyed in real time. Therefore, I'm announcing that Howard Green Energy will not be pursuing any business relationships with Gray Environmental Consulting. Character and human decency are non-negotiable requirements in our partnerships. Mabel's networking empire collapsed in a single sentence. 2 years of business development, dozens of potential contracts, millions in projected revenue, all dissolved because she couldn't show basic respect to an elderly family member. However, Esther continued, her voice warming considerably, I'm pleased to announce that Mr. Reuben Gray has accepted my invitation to join the Howard Foundation's board of directors. His demonstrated character and natural dignity make him exactly the kind of person we need, guiding our charitable initiatives. The restaurant erupted in murmurs of amazement. Seth dropped his whiskey glass, the sound of shattering crystal punctuating the moment of complete reversal. From my corner table, I watched my granddaughter's confused smile, my grandson's wide eyes, my son's face cycling through shame and recognition of catastrophic error. Esther Howard raised her glass one final time. To Mr. Gray, proof that kindness to strangers creates the most unexpected opportunities, and that dignity always finds its proper reward. Justice, served elegant and complete. If you liked this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.